Hi guys, this is Dr. Divya Pradhan, and today we are going to talk about organs and tissues of flowering plants. When I'm talking about flowering plants, obviously you understand that I'm talking about angiosperms. Alright, here is a typical plant body organization. Plant body is made up of a shoot system, root system, the shoot system, the stems, the leaves, as well as the flowers. The stem, a typical stem, has three features. Okay, it has node and internode. It has buds, that means terminal bud and axillary bud, and it has leaves. It can be modified leaves, but this is a typical feature of a stem. What are the functions of the stem? Support, growth, transport, and of course food storage. Terminal bud is responsible for lateral growth or growth lengthwise. It produces the new leaves. And the axillary bud is in the axil of the stem and the leaf. Right here, this is an axillary bud. This axillary bud produces new branches or flowers. What's the node? Where the leaf attaches to the stem is called a node. The distance between two nodes is called internode. All right. So what about the root system? Well, the root system, the main function of the root system is what? Anchor the plant, absorb water, produce hormones. It has very fine root hair-like structures, microscopic structures. We'll talk about that later. There are two types of roots, of course. The tap root, where the main root can be distinguished, can be seen, can be identified. Fibrous root system, where the main root cannot be identified. All right. What are the difference between monocots and dicots? Remember, angiosperms are made up of two types of plants, mono and dicots. Monocots have one cotyledon. A cotyledon is a seed leaf. This is a part, significant part of the embryo within the seed. This is the primary leaf in the embryo of the higher plants. And upon germination, here, these cotyledons may form the first embryonic leaf in the seedling. All right. So monocots have one cotyledon, dicots have two. Their veins are parallel. Here, the veins are varicose, network-like. The vascular bundles are scattered in monocots. Remember, vascular bundles are made up of xylem and phloem. Vascular bundles are arranged in a ring. We'll talk about that in our presentation too. Fibrous root system, taproot system. The floral parts are in multiples of 3s. Here, the floral parts are in multiples of 4 and 5. Corn, zea, maize is a typical example of monocot. All right. Sunflower is a typical example of dicot. All right. So the first tissue we are talking about are the meristems. This is the apical meristem. So the meristems are immature cells. These cells are capable of division, of cellular division. They can form any type of cells. So they can divide. Cells can divide. So here what happens is the cells look like this. They have a very dense cytoplasm, very large nucleus, no intercellular space, very, very tiny vacuoles, very thin walls. But remember, the main capacity is they are capable of cell division. They're located in the terminal part, of course, and they can form epidermal, ground, or vascular tissues. We'll talk about these tissues in just a few minutes. The epidermal tissues. The epidermal tissues, remember, formed by the meristem, form the outer surface of the leaves and roots and the stem. The cells are flat and they will almost run parallel to each other on the upper and the lower surface. All right. Usually, this surface is covered by a waxy layer of cuticle, and this will minimize water loss. The leaves also, the epidermal cells, remember, are continuous. They don't have intercellular space. But in some places, like the leaves or in the stem, there are openings, and these openings are called stomata. In a leaf, it's called stoma or stomata. In the stem, it's called lenticell. These are openings. These will allow gas exchange. In the roots, these cells have finger-like or projections. The root cells, these epidermal cells, and these are called the root hairs. And finally, the epidermis is replaced by the dead cork, and this is seen only in mature tree trunks. We'll talk about that later. All right? Ground tissue made up of parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So remember, the ground tissue, the main function is they fill up spaces. So the first one, parenchyma, made up of large thin-walled cells. They have plenty of intercellular spaces. They have vacuoles. Notice the vacuoles in them. And they have, of course, they are living. They do have a cytoplasm. They do have a living nucleus. And what is their main function? Their main function is either storage of food, or in some parts where they're exposed to sunlight, they are they contain chloroplast, and of course their function is photosynthesis. Collenchyma are cells in which the corners are thickened. No longer do they have thin cell wall like parenchyma. Only corners are thickened. Now they still have a large central vacuole. They have a nucleus, but their cytoplasm is thin. All right, but they are living. Like parenchyma, they are living. Now usually where are they found? They are found where there are regions where you require, what do you require? You require growth as well as some strength, like for example in a petiole. The stalk of a leaf is called a petiole, okay? Sclerenchyma are very, very thickened, and these are dead. So they are dead, the walls are greatly thickened, and usually these cells die once the cells are formed. So the cell dies. These are associated with other cell types, and it gives them mechanical support. You are very familiar with sclerenchyma. For example, the jute. Jute has thick fibers. The fibers are made up of what? Sclerenchyma. Okay? They also form the covering of seeds and nuts. They're also found in some fruits that you are very aware of. For example, pear. Pear is very gritty, remember? So what do you think it contains? Sclerenchyma. Here are the vascular tissues. So the vascular tissues, the first one is the xylem. So xylem they are made up of two types of cells, vessels and tracheids. Vessels are the thicker pipes. Here what happens is the cells are greatly thickened. Remember, they are dead, and the end wall is fused. So it is literally a pipe, and so it is one cell is continuous with the second cell. The diameter is like almost 0.7 millimeters thick, okay? Greatly thickened with cellulose and lignin. So here, these vessels, they will orient in such a way that they will form continuous pipes, almost ducts, and will allow passage of water. The tracheids are much more narrower, and their ends are tapered and overlapping. So their ends are overlapping. Of course, they are continuous. Their end walls are continuous, and also they will have openings called pits, which will allow passage of water in and out of the vessels and the tracheids. Okay? Just like vessels, their walls are also thickened with cellulose as well as lignin. Last but not the least is the phloem, which is the next vascular tissue. And also they are made up of two types of cells, the sieve tubes as well as the companion cells. The sieve tubes are made up of concave cells stacked one on top of the other, except that the end plate, this is an end plate, so this is cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, the end plate has holes like a sieve, which will allow passage of food from one cell to another cell. So these transport the products of photosynthesis, those are sugars and amino acids, from one place to another, all right, especially from the leaves to the roots. The others are the companion cells. The companion cells, remember, are the living cells. So remember, the sieve tubes will no longer have nucleus. They're dead. So they don't have nucleus, and so they just have very few organelles. So who's going to keep them alive? Who's going to take care of them? It's the companion cells. The companion cells are living. These are the ones that will move sugars, amino acids, macromolecules in and out of the elements, and they are the source of life support for the sieve tubes. All right. So I think that's all I have for you today. All right, I will continue with this presentation continue with this chapter in the next presentation. I thank you for your time, for listening to me, and if there are any questions or concerns, please call me or please talk to me. Thank you.